Welcome back to Our First Century, a podcast focused on the first 100 years of T.A. Loving Company.
I'm Ty Edmondson, CEO of T.A. Loving Company. Welcome.
And I'm Krista Davenport, Vice President of People and Culture. In today's episode, we're digging deep into some of our most impactful work.
In this episode, we are joined by four leaders: David Pittman, Wayne Hunt, Justin Hott, and Clay Wisnewski. The people behind the roads we drive on, the water we drink, and the systems that quietly support our daily lives.
Before we get started, this is a good opportunity to remind you that we'd like to hear from you. If you have questions that you'd like us to answer in a future episode, please email us at podcasts@taloving.com. Now, on to this episode, Episode 8, Civil Strength, Part 2. Let's dive in.
Well, David and Wayne, thanks for joining us today. It'll be a great discussion, and I'm sure everyone's looking forward to hearing from you all. Both of y'all represent decades of being at T.A. Loving Company. Tell us a little bit about how you got into this field of work.
Well, I went to NC State from 73 to 77, graduated with an engineering degree. My future father-in-law worked at T.A. Loving doing the surveying for the bridge division. And he was asking where I was going to work. I told him I didn't know, but I would entertain working at T.A. Loving. So I went and met Bob Loving, interviewed, and next thing I know, I'm here. And that was in May of 1977, and I'm still here. It's May of 2025. As you can see, that's 48 years, going on 49 years at T.A. Loving. It's been an interesting time. It's been a good time. I've met a lot of good people. It's been family to me because I've spent more time here than I did at home with my family. So T.A. Loving is my family, and I appreciate what all's been done for me in my 48 years, and I appreciate the people I've met.
You know, it's interesting. When I first started as a laborer one summer when I was in college, you and I worked together. You taught me how to do surveying on the first job I was on here at the company.
All right.
So it's interesting. You talked about that's how kind of where you started, and then that's exactly how I started, and how we've all had to train people along the way.
That's
so
great.
I think that's a good example. And you mentioned family, and we'll talk more about that. But you do get that it is part of the environment and what we really strive for around here.
So 48, 49 years, tell us about what's happened over kind of what different roles you've had over those 48 or 49 years.
Okay, well, I've probably done a little bit of everything. I started out as a laborer cutting bushes and briars, doing the surveying for our pipe crews. In 1977, we were mainly a pipeline company. And I started out doing the surveying and the exploratory drilling. I would go with a mobile drill that we had and drill holes about every 100 to 200 feet apart to find out if there was rock or water where we were going to lay pipe. So that was my starting for the first 2 years. After that, Mr. Hunter came to me and asked me would I like to do plant work. I said, I'll do anything that you ask me to do. I just don't know anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
So we started building plants. The first plant we probably did was in Fremont, North Carolina. Left Fremont, went to Faison, and then we went over to Tarboro, did a pump station and a treatment plant in Tarboro. And from that point, we have been building plants left and right.
Mm-hmm. And we were just talking in the last episode about civil conveyance systems, and they talked a lot about what you're talking about now for civil infrastructure, being willing to do whatever is laid out in front of you, even if you don't know how to do it, being willing to jump in and figure it out as you go. So that's another great example of the opportunities for growth at T.A. Loving Company from 48 years ago all the way through to today.
That's correct.
Well, Wayne, tell us a little bit about your entry into the field and then your entry into T.A. Loving Company.
Well, I got into construction in 1983. I always liked working outside. My father was into construction, so that kind of made it easier for me to transition over. I worked for a couple of different companies. In 1990, T.A. Loving was building a water treatment plant in Lumberton. And I went by, met Mr. Ken Robinson, asked me if he was hiring. He hired me. I come to work the next day. After I got here, I started talking to a lot of people they were telling me, we've been here 20 to 30 years. So I said, wow. I said, well, this must be a good place to be. So after being here a while, I figured out it was a good place to be. They made you feel like a part of a team, made you feel like family. So started out as a laborer, moved up to a foreman. Now I'm superintendent. I've enjoyed my time here. I've known a lot of the people here long enough. I've known my own kids. So it's a family within a family. I appreciate everything they've done for me, every opportunity they gave me, how important they've made me feel over the last 35 years. So I don't regret a minute of it. I don't have 35 more 35 more years to go, but anyway, I'm enjoying every day of it and still learning. It's just a great place to be. It's a great place to be. And I tell young people now that I meet, I say, hey, if you're looking for a good job, somewhere that you'll feel important, I said, TA11 is a place that you want to look at.
What were people doing that made you feel important? Because you've mentioned that twice, so I'm very curious.
Well, they made you feel like you were part of a family, that you were part of something. They, your ideas, they accept them, even though you were a laborer, even though I had just started here, and I thought about everybody was from Goldsboro. I was from Lumberton, North Carolina, so I figured I was the outsider anyway. But they made me feel just as important by asking my ideas and my input and giving me the opportunity to exceed as anyone else. So that meant a lot coming into a company the size that TA11 was, and learning about the amount of the people that had been here for all those years. And so you knew there was a lot of knowledge here, and you knew that it had to be a great place to work, or either they wouldn't have stayed here that long anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
it was great. It has been great.
Yeah, we do a good job of including people, giving people not only the opportunity to learn and grow, but the opportunity to share their ideas and perspectives so that we can come to the best solution.
Yes, and they have. I mean, as long as you're not afraid of working outside the box. So you have to, I tell anyone, I said, to succeed and to learn, I said, you're going to have to make mistakes along the way. I said, but you can't let the fear of making a mistake hold you back. I said, and if you don't know something, if you're not sure about it, ask someone. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think about what you just said as the creativity that we have to build into the projects we do every day, because it's not always straightforward how you're going to build something, and you do have to figure it out. And I think that's a fun part of this business, quite frankly. That's what I've always enjoyed about it. That's my favorite way to describe this business. It is interesting from that perspective.
It is. I mean, and I've built from water plants to fish hatcheries. I've even worked on a bridge, because I always said I wanted to build a bridge. So I think it was in 2017, I worked with the bridge group some. So that was an experience too. So I wasn't afraid of working outside the box and wanted to learn something new, because a day that you don't learn something is a day that you wasted. So.
I love that.
Yeah, that's good.
And in past episodes, we've talked a lot about problem solving, and this focus on creativity really goes to how do we solve that problem in a new and creative way that's going to get us to a strong end result. So I love that you highlighted that there. So Wayne, you've kind of kicked us off in a direction of past projects, and I want to come back over to you, David. We wrote an anniversary book this year. We had a past episode on that where David Filial and Paul Hunter came in and talked to us about how they went about the writing of the book. And I know that you were interviewed in that book, and you talked about a project at Anheuser-Busch. Can you take us back to that project and tell us what made it a significant one?
Okay, it was Anheuser-Busch. It was the Eagle Snacks plant over in Robertsonville, North Carolina. They made potato chips. And, of course, we were the sewer people. We ran a pipeline about 5 miles out into the country, built a sewage lagoon, and then a spray field where they could spray and irrigate for growing grass. The amazing thing about that, we built the project. It was on a tight schedule, but TA11 met all the schedules, and Mr. Bush himself recognized that. He came to the project, and it was like the president had come over to Robinsonville. When he spoke, people listened. The potato chips were not to his quality. He was not happy, and he got on the people there very hard. But he looked at us and said, y'all have done a good job. You've done everything you said, and you've got the plant going. And he rewarded us by giving us another job down in Jacksonville, Florida, for the brewery. We went down there and laid about 10 miles of 24-inch HDPE pipe. Again, we met the schedule and did everything quality-wise. And they were real pleased with TA11. And they tried to give us the third job. There was a job in Georgia that they wanted us to go build a plant there. But unfortunately, because we're not union, the union found out we were there working and said, no, they do not go on any more projects. So that's where we stopped with Anheuser-Busch. But Mr. Bush himself, he expected quality, and he expected it to be on time. And we at TA11, we performed, and he was happy with us.
Quality and production, they're two out of the three, add in safety, three of the components that we really focus on in all the work we're doing every day.
And then another key part of that is the relationships and the repeat business that you get from meeting the safety, quality, and production piece.
Right. We're doing what you say you're going to do.
So it all ties together.
Right.
And that goes back to the core values of client advocacy and high ethical standards, as well as teamwork.
Wayne, you want to describe a project that's memorable, that was logistically challenging or technologically challenging? Any projects that really stand out to you?
Yes, there's one, the T.G. Brom water treatment plant for Johnson County. The size of the job, the amount of structures on the job, all the subs, the coordinating that you have to do with the owners, the plant for shutdowns, tie-ins. There's just so much that coordination that has to go into that communication with not only our people, but all our subs, the owners, the plant operators, to get everything set up to do it within their schedule and working with them. And as far as getting our people lined up to do the work, like I said, the size of the project, it's really demanding the meetings that you have to get everything in order to do the work and get your crews and subs, whoever, on board to get the work done in a timely manner and quality, and doing it when we, like you said before, when we say we do it, and do it right the first time, because we don't get paid to do it the second time. So we try to get it right the first time. But the main thing is that even though you're doing these shutdowns and everything's so fast paced, is that safe work and no work.
Yeah,
and that's still the main thing, is that safe work and no work. And like I said, the owners and everyone else look at you to do that when you say that you're going to do it in the time that you say that you're going to do it in, and still the quality and the safety, all the aspects. So there's it's real challenging because of that, the amount of coordination that you have to do for that job.
Yeah, that's you're bringing up a really good point, because the areas we work in, the areas we live in, it's growing. I mean, exponentially, and everything we do, all the projects are essential. They're quality of life projects. And the project you're describing is a water plant, and we're substantially upgrading that plant. But the thing you're describing is what has to happen 24/7 at a water plant. They've got to produce water.
Great water, that's right.
Because everybody expects when they turn their tap on that water is there.
That's right.
And you just can't shut it down and say, well, we'll start back up whenever we're done. That's part of what we do, is we have to maintain those facilities while we're doing all the expansion. So it's really makes it complex, and all the things that go in, all the planning and scheduling and all that is critical.
It is. It is. Like you said, and they expect that quality work. And TA11 expects us to give them that quality work. Because just like Ty said, those repeat customers, that the coordination that you have with those owners, so they expect that from TA11.
I want to dig a little bit deeper on the topic of those complexities and talk about the fact that the Civil Infrastructure Business Unit is known for kind of the quote unquote hard work. So when you think about TA Loving Company, civil infrastructure, and doing those tough or challenging projects, why do you think we've leaned into that over the years, and why do we continue to seek out that type of work?
It's not many people willing to take that challenge and that risk. There's quite a bit of risk involved in building a water or sewer plant, especially the sewer because of the depth in the ground. And that's where we've excelled. We've taken that challenge and moved forward. And just at Raleigh, we went 60 feet deep in the ground for a pump station there in the last 10 years. And we've built other sites, 40 feet, so many 40 feet deep. We don't even think anything about a 40-foot deep hole anymore. So I think that's why there's not many people willing to take the risk that we've done.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that TA11 takes the risk because they have that kind of confidence in their field management, that they can get the job done. If we run into a problem that, just say that I haven't encountered, there's so much knowledge within the company, you can find an answer to it and figure out how to get it done right, and most of all, safely.
Yeah, that's a good point, because every job we consider pursuing, that's where the conversation starts. Do we have the people? Do we have the expertise that can go build that project? That's where the whole conversation starts. It's totally reliant on what our field resources can do, and are they available? You've both seen the company grow over the years. A lot of things change, but a lot of things don't change. What's something that you've seen that's not changed, that has passed through all the growth and things that we've seen over time?
You still have to depend on the laborers, the operators, the foreman, the superintendents to get the job done. It's still people. People still have to do the work. We're trying to turn now to computers, and that's very nice, helps out quite a bit. But you still have to have people, as they say, with the boots on, out in the mud, performing each task that comes their way.
Yeah, you have to trust those people out there. You have to trust your project engineers, your foreman, your laborers, because there's no I in team. It's across the board that you have to trust everyone that they're going to do what you need them to do, and that you're going to supply them with the resources, the material, whatever they need to get it done. And the one thing that hasn't changed is that the detail they put still to safety. Safety's number one, no matter what. It's safety, because no one wants to get hurt, and everyone wants to go home in the same way that they came, and also that the appreciation that TA11 shows that, hey, we appreciate what you're doing, because when you talk to other construction workers and you tell them the benefits that you have at TA11, and they tell you the benefits they have where they're at, and they can't believe it. So TA11 is still that family oriented, that they take care of the people that take care of them, they take care of.
Mm-hmm. We hear family over and over and over again. I want to go back to what you were talking about, safety being consistent. one of the facts that I've learned through all of these conversations is that TA Loving Company had a safety manual before there was an OSHA safety manual. And so that's something that really stands out for me about how valued safety is at TA Loving Company, that we're not doing it because someone else told us that we had to do it. We're doing it because we really do care about the safety and health of our employees, and we want them to go home each day in the same or better condition than what they came to us.
All right.
Yeah, and I agree. The people, this is a people business. And like you said, David, we still have to show up and do hard things out there every day. And I would say, I would want to thank both of y'all, because I think both of you all have done a wonderful job of training people and training the next generation, and working with those folks and building them up and getting them ready to take our place at some point. And I think that's so critical to this company and all the things this company stands for. So I want to thank both of y'all for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So the work you're doing has impacted our employees as well as the communities. I want to hear from each of you about how you see the work of the Civil Infrastructure Business Unit impacting the communities that we live and work in today and in the future.
Well, as we've been talking all along, we have to have water to survive, for drinking, for so many other uses. So we're there building those water plants, those intake structures that bring the water out of the rivers to these plants. And then the second side of that is there's waste treatment. Waste treatment has to be taken care of on a daily basis. We're building the plants for today and for tomorrow. So anything pertaining to living our lives pertain with water and sewer, and that's us.
Turn on your faucet, flush your toilet. We are impacting all of that. And yet most people are not thinking about that, because having running water, having waste systems is something we take for granted.
Right.
Yes, and I tell people all the time, I said, they talk about water plants and wastewater, and some people think it's all the same. I said, no. I said, it's not the same. I said, but the work that we do, at a waste treatment plant that puts the quality of water back in the streams, I said, it's got to be as good as what we're taking in, because if it's not, the environment is messed up. The fish are dying in the streams. I said, what we do is very important. I said, as far as the waste that's going out and the water that's coming back in, our work has to be right for the plants to do their work. So they depend on us to do it right, as like the communities rely on us to get it done right, so that their water is safe to drink.
That environmental focus is so important. And we've been talking about what's happening inside the company, what's happening for our communities. And then we think about the impact about it further out from that. We are impacting what's happening in the environment, and we do have requirements that we have to meet in terms of the process to ensure that the work that we're doing is leaving the environment in a good state in order to go on and sustain the expectations we have to live in those places.
Right.
What's one piece of advice you would offer to the next generation of leaders coming up in this company?
I would say, take pride in what you do. Go out there every day, do your very best. Don't be afraid to work outside the box. Don't be afraid to ask for help or ask a question if you're not sure about the answer. Take ownership in your work, ownership in what you do every day. Don't be afraid or ashamed to tell anyone that, hey, I done that. Or I worked with TA11, we built that plant or that bridge, or we laid that pipe. Take ownership in what you do. Most of all, take pride in what you do. Do it right the first time, because it's been said so many times that we only get paid to do it one time. So let's do it right the first time and make every effort to do it right the first time.
We've heard so many themes in the podcast that we've done to date. And one of the themes that Ty talks about a lot that I don't think we've talked about so much is what you just talked about. It's kind of that entrepreneurial spirit. is being willing to go out there and take advantage of the opportunity instead of waiting for someone to come around and tell you what to do. So can you offer any advice on how people can approach that? Because oftentimes people have a list of reasons. Well, that's not my lane. They'll get upset with me. They have a whole list of reasons why they can't take that approach to engaging. What would you recommend for them?
I would recommend to them to, if they're not sure that they can do it, or don't be afraid to try it. The person that doesn't make mistakes, the person that's never done anything. So I say when I come to work with TA Love, and if I had always stayed in my lane, if I had always been a laborer, that I would still be a laborer.
Right.
But you got to show that. You got to show them that you want to make that next step, to make that next step. If I would just go to work every day and say, well, I'm going to dig a trench today, or set a form, and I weren't interested in what we were doing and how it was getting done, and why we were doing it like we're doing it, I could still be a laborer. But you got to apply yourself. You got to apply yourself to let them know that you're looking to make that next level. Don't think that, someone said it earlier, don't think that well, I can move up to a foreman. If they let me move up to a foreman, I can do it. No, you got to apply yourself. They got to know that you can do that job, or they got to think that you can do that job before you move up. So you have to apply yourself at the level that you're at then to move up to the next level. And that's always been my philosophy. And Ty and myself have had that conversation before, that I'm a superintendent now, but I'm not like always wanting to be a superintendent. I always looking to move up. When I was a laborer, I wanted to move up to a foreman. When I was a foreman, I wanted to move up to a superintendent. So you can never get complacent at where you're at. You always got to strive to move up, to do better.
I love that too. The expectation of start doing the job that you want. You know, they say dress for the job you want. And we're talking about behave for the job that you want. Show that you can do those skills. Show that you have that leadership, that you have that management capability. And someone's going to recognize that and give you the opportunity to match it.
Yes, I tell people, guys on my job all the time, the laborers and that talk to me, they say, man, we want your job. I said, you can get it. I said, but you have to apply yourself. I said, you can't wait for it to come and get you. You got to go get it. I said, apply yourself. I said, don't be scared. I said, if you do, if you stay within the box, you're going to always be in the box. I said, so if you want it, go get it. And I tell them all the time, I said, you're in the right place to get it. I said, you can get it here. I said, if you want it, I said, but you got to want it. You can't just wait for them to come out and say, okay, we're going to move you up to a foreman today. I said, you got to show them that you can do that job, that you want to apply yourself to do it. Don't wait to be pushed in that situation. Be willing to take it. Take the step that is just needed.
Show me you want it. Don't just tell me you want it.
I think of two jobs that we did that hadn't been many jobs in the world done at the time. We did the desalination water plant at Kildover Hills, North Carolina. At the time we built that plant, there was one plant in Saudi Arabia. There was one plant in Miami, Florida.
Wow.
We had English engineers. Ian Watson was the engineer, I'll never forget him, that came over. And we had no knowledge of what we were doing, but we weren't afraid to tackle it. And we asked advice, and we built the desalination plant at Kildover Hills, and then we went down to Rodanthe and built another. And leads to drinking water for a whole lot of people now that they wouldn't have. And then I think about the job we had at Bald Head Island. What do you mean Bald Head Island? Well, that's an island. The only way you could get materials to the job was through barges. We bid the job, had to figure out what the cost would be to work on an island. Everything had to be carried across on a barge. Our concrete had to be barged in. Our people had to be barged in. But yet we took the responsibility, and we didn't look at it as a problem. We took it that we could do it, and we did, and we were successful at all of these projects, making money.
Yeah, mindset, and you go back to the creativity we talked about before. It's how you choose to look at things, and if you see something as an opportunity, then you can get through it and come up with that creative solution and solve that situation.
I've always looked at it, accept change as something that's going to happen. Do you want to stay behind? You do, don't accept any change. But as long as we're here, things will change, and we must change with it. And another thing that I think that we do at TA Loving Company is do unto others as you would have them do unto you.
Mm-hmm.
Let that be your motto, whether it be an engineer or an owner. Do unto them as you want them to treat you. Even if they do you wrong, don't you do them wrong. And I think you'll go a long ways, because what goes around comes around.
Great words of wisdom.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes, and that's a great statement that David made, because you try to talk and treat everyone the way you want to be treated. Sometimes they may not treat you bad like that, but you still want to treat them like that. Treat a man with respect, because I say that man gets in his clothes every day the same way I do. So if to get respect, you got to give respect. That's always been for me to respect you, for you to respect me, I got to respect you. So.
Yeah, that all good words. I've been jotting down all the words y'all been talking about, and I'm just going to go back through them real quick because I think they're all really important. Relationships, challenged, always be challenged. Ownership, pride, apply yourself, treat people the right way, be respectful. There are a lot of, that's what we are. That's who we are, and I think that's so critical. So
It is.
I think that's what makes TA Loving the company that they are, is because they have people in place, upper management, that treat you with that respect. So just like I said before, to get respect, you got to give respect no matter what they are. If they're a man that's down there in the ditch every day in a shovel with mud, or if he's out there walking around clean, you still got to respect that man. Because I tell guys on my job now, I say, won't ask you to do anything that I wouldn't do. Mm-hmm. If I asked you to work in the rain, you can believe one thing, I will stand right there beside you.
Yeah.
So people will respect you for that. They really do.
All right. Well, hey, this has been a great discussion. Thank y'all for being here and taking time to spend with us. And it's been a really good conversation.
Well, thank you for the opportunity at TA Loving.
Yeah,
Thank you.
It's really been clear how much you both enjoy the work that you do and how proud you are of the work that you've done in the past, but also how interested and proud you are of the work that you will continue to do in the future. So thank you for representing TA Loving Company.
Well, thank you.
Justin, Clay, thank you so much for being with us today. Justin, I'm going to start with you. You have a family connection to the company. So can you tell us about that family connection and then tell us about your journey with TA Loving Company?
Sure. My father, I believe it all started back around 1979 or 1980. My father was working for an engineering firm up around Durham, and I believe TA Loving had a job that was with that engineering firm. And the opportunity came up. He was out there. He met Donald Robinson and Jerry Smith, and both my parents were from Pamlico County, which is a small rural county eastern North Carolina. And the opportunity arose to come to work for TA Loving, and my father basically jumped at the opportunity to take that job, to get closer back to home, build a house there, raised a family. I've got two older sisters. So I basically grew up knowing TA Loving and went to work for my father during the summers out of school. I'd ride around with him on multiple job sites and just got to know a lot of the people. Matter of fact, a couple of the guys, I'm pretty sure their wives babysat for me at some point in time when I was younger. So then growing up, worked a couple of odd jobs when I was younger, and then the opportunity to come to work for TA Loving. Then obviously went to work for my father, who had a lot of jobs in eastern North Carolina. And as you can imagine, working for your father is not the easiest thing to do most of the time. But for about every summer, there was one summer I did not work with TA Loving. I thought the grass would be greener somewhere else. And I believe the next summer during school, I came back and all but begged Donald Robinson to have my job back. So that's kind of how I started and been here for started full time in 2003, so going on 22 years now.
Yeah, it's interesting that you have to experience something else to know that you really want
Yes.
something sometimes. Go back to your dad. What different roles or job titles did he have over his career?
I believe he started out as a project manager and then ultimately became vice president before he retired. Kind of an interesting fact, my father had a pretty bad accident back in 1998. And during the whole course of that, his recovery and everything, T.A. Loving really stuck behind him and our family. At the time, I was just going through school. I had a sister that was getting out of school, about to have a wedding, and to my knowledge, T.A. Loving never let us miss a paycheck. So that really hits deep to the heart.
Yeah. My first full-time job was working for Justin's father. So I was a superintendent that didn't know much, but anyway, his father Tom helped me a lot through those times, and I got to see Justin at a young age and then grow up. So and now working here full time and been very successful.
Yeah, I like to say that T.A. Loving's either fed or put a roof over our family ever since like 1980. So as long as I've been here.
And in a past podcast, Family Matters, Lynn and Daniel Moore were on, and Lynn shared a similar situation. It wasn't a medical issue, but there was not work for him to do at the time. And he talked about how T.A. Loving continued to pay and support him through that until there was work for him to do. So we're seeing a lot of consistency in the values of the company. So we've heard about your dad's journey. Tell us about yours. You worked some summers, so the internship program, maybe before we called it that.
Yes.
When you were hired full-time, what was your role? And tell us about the different roles that you had and where you are now.
Sure. The first role I had during summer, I believe in 1997, we were working down at Camp Seafair in Pamlico County. They called me a pipe layer. I was kind of pretty much the go-getter guy that had to go get everything done. So that was kind of my evolution through the summers. I did that, then went to work pouring a little bit of concrete to understand that kind of aspect of it. Always had a job through school. Donald Robinson and Jerry Smith and Ty were real good about making sure that I always had a gainfully employed, as I like to call it. Then got out of school, started kind of as a foreman level, and then got elevated from there to where I am today. Done a lot of unique projects over the years. Been involved with a lot of conveyance projects as well as a lot of heavy civil and infrastructure projects.
So you went straight from foreman to project manager to senior project manager? How did that work?
No, I believe I was a foreman, assistant superintendent, project engineer, project manager, and then ultimately a senior project manager now.
So you have a lot of field experience, not just that internship experience, but you really did get your start in the field. So you have a good understanding of the work that's being done out there.
Yeah, and I really think it's benefited me in my career to have that base to build off of, to really understand how the projects come together and how the people that it takes to build the projects work.
Yeah, definitely a tool in your toolkit to help you be successful. Thank you, Justin. Clay, your story is different and equally interesting. Tell us about how you came to T.A. Loving and what you've been doing since you've been here.
When I first came to North Carolina, my family lived here in the state. And soon after, I was active duty Air Force at the time. And our family knew Ty and his family through church. And we associated, frequently there. And we were also in a Bible study together. And I was looking for a job as I neared retirement. And
Retirement from
the Air Force.
Okay.
And Ty encouraged me to come talk to him one day. And I didn't really know what he did or, what T.A. Loving was about. And we chatted for a while. And he took me out to a job site and showed me the job site. And 6 or 8 weeks went by, and I was interviewing with airlines and, looking at possibly flying. And time went by, and I had another invite from Ty to come by and see him. And, it was during that second sit in his office that he offered me a position with T.A. Loving.
persistence.
So,
Well, Clay's not telling the full story here.
Fill us in.
First of all, when Clay talks, he hadn't talked about it a lot, but his past includes being an F-15 Eagle pilot, which is probably the most complex jet in the world. And I think Clay and I were on a visit, and I looked at him and said, you know, Clay, anybody can fly a jet airplane. Not everybody can build a pump station.
I'm sure he loved that.
Yeah, he went something not like that. But no, growing up, after school, in middle school and high school, I would watch contractors build houses in my neighborhood. And I would go by there, after the contractors would knock off around 3 or 3:30, and I'd go by on my way home from school and see what they had accomplished that day. And there wasn't, a few times where they're, had poured some concrete footings or whatever. And hey, there was some extra concrete on the ground that was still not set up. And so I'd go get, a 5-gallon bucket and take some home. And we instantly had a little stoop outside of the garage to, put the trash cans or whatever. And so I was plying my own trade there. But, watching how they built things inspired me. And in college, I got an engineering degree, and albeit not really related to construction, it's in propulsion design, aeronautical engineering. But through my career in the Air Force as a pilot, I found myself managing schedules and managing people and processes more than I was, designing airplanes or building, turbine sections of jet engines. But it's that managing people and processes and schedules that Ty must have seen, the ability to do, because he hired me as a project engineer in 2006 after I retired. And so I took a week off after I retired from the Air Force and then came to work with a hard hat instead of helmet. So from there, I worked as a project engineer for, 4 or 5 years or so, and was promoted to project manager. And then applied that role for many years through estimating and line work, civil conveyance. I did a stint with bridge work for probably 6 or 7 years, and then moved back to the treatment plant side where I am today in civil infrastructure. And then I think one of my most favorite projects of all, besides the first one, there's always that first one that you remember. That was at North Buffalo Creek Pump Station in Greensboro. But the one that I remember the most that I think is a hallmark project for the company is the Pea Island Bridge on the Outer Banks. It was 57 spans across an expanse of sand that would kept getting washed out, Highway 12. And when Hurricane Irene went through there in, probably the 2009 timeframe, it washed out Highway 12, and the DOT erected a then called temporary bridge. But here we were 9 or 10 years later in the late 2010s putting in another temporary bridge, and it was designed to have a 25-year lifespan. But it was made out of concrete piling, washed and jetted down in the ground 60 to 70 feet, and 6 or 8 of those at each of 57 bents across the bridge, and then about a 2.5 mile approach, and all the approaches and bridge end bents to the job there. But it took 2.5 years, and what us and the crew thought would be a nice leisurely activity, after work on a sunny day on the Outer Banks, turned into 20 degrees and 25 mile an hour blowing sand through the winter, and it wasn't exactly what we expected, but I fondly remember that job and the outcome of it. Most everybody in our group worked on that bridge over the 2.5 years we were out there. So.
Yeah, both of y'all did a really good job of explaining how when opportunities come up in this company, you've got to be willing to go take on the challenge. I mean,
Right.
Whether it was doing something different, building a bridge on the Outer Banks, harshest conditions in the world probably for
Exactly.
doing something like that, to being available when whether it's a conveyance job or a water plant or whatever the task may be. I think we've all got to be able to adapt and be able to take on the challenge. So those are
Exactly.
both great examples. Justin, like Clay's got a memorable job. Does anything come to mind for you?
Yeah, I would say the water plant we built up in Martin County. It was at the time the largest project that I'd ever been involved with. And it was kind of unique because it was a job where the pipe crew, the bridge crew, and what we're calling the plant crew at the time, we all worked together. It was up there. We built a water treatment plant. It received the water from the Roanoke River. It was pretty neat. We had to go out actually into the river and drive sheeting so we could go basically work on the bottom of the Roanoke River. So that one really stuck out to me.
Well, yeah, and I agree. That was a challenging job, and it had all the different parts of construction, the things you had been
Yes,
cross training.
that's a good word to
I
put
guess
it.
is a good word. Had a lot of line work, unusually difficult line work. Had the difficulty in the plant, had the difficulty in the river. It's where all that comes together.
Yeah, it was a very neat project. I got a picture of that I hang up in the office.
Yeah.
I'm going to move forward on the difficulties or challenges and come over to you, Clay. You talked a little bit about management and leadership qualities and skills. I want to ask you about a project over the years that's really challenged you and helped you grow as a leader.
I think the project that challenged me the most in growing was the East Neuse Pump Station at the City of Raleigh's main wastewater treatment plant. It's on the Neuse River, southeast of Raleigh and northeast of Clayton. And that was one of the largest projects that we had done in several years. And I think I counted 53 different subcontractors that we had employed on that project. It lasted almost 4 years in total length. And some of the unique facets of the job is we were digging a hole that, 1,000 feet from the Neuse River, one of the 5 major tributaries in the state, we're 63 feet down in the ground with an excavation the size of a football stadium. And, the slopes on the side, came down 20 feet to a bench that was 8 foot wide, and then sloped down another, 20, 25 feet or so to another bench, and then went straight down in the ground 32 feet. And it took almost a year just to excavate that and safely shore it so that we could safely work in it. And then we started building slabs that were over 4 foot thick. And we had storms that filled that whole thing 15 feet deep in muddy, water right before a concrete pour. I remember that was the summer we had interns in there with our 2 or 3 work crews with stadium cups crawling around inside the rebar mats, digging the silt out from below the bottom mat of steel and putting it in 5-gallon buckets so we could get it out of there to make the concrete pour. One of the other unique facets of that project is our primary pipeline subcontractor, Park Construction, had to cross the Neuse River with a pair of 6-foot diameter pipes. And they open cut the Neuse River. They dammed over one side of it and put both pipes out in the river. They would dig down 18 feet below the river bottom, lay this pipe, and then bury it under 8 to 10 feet of concrete, and then put 8 feet of river bottom back in place. And then after capping the pipes, they'd switch the dam to the other side of the river, take all their big heavy equipment over to the other side and dig down, find the ends of the pipes, uncap them, and continue on laying that pipe. Never in my mind would I have believed you could cross the Neuse River in a 2-week time period with 6-foot diameter pipes. That was just amazing to see that. But managing all of the pieces of that project that had to come together on a tight time schedule. And today it is one of the City of Raleigh's showpiece projects that they're very proud of, and we are as well with the outcome of it.
Yeah, it's we talk about the growth in this area, and the things we do and build every day are so essential to the quality of life in this area. And that's a good example where it's allowing Raleigh to be able to facilitate all the growth that's coming. And we do that everywhere. All our jobs are that way.
Yeah.
It's really incredible when you think about it, how important what we do every day and how critical it is. Everything we do is we rely on our people. We rely on the teams that you all assemble every day. And you all do an excellent job at that. Talk to us a little bit about how you grow your teams, and while you're growing a team while always maintaining a safety, quality, and productivity component to everything we do. How does that work? How do you instill that in our workforce?
I'd say the biggest thing we try to do is develop the culture with the different crews, really to stress the importance of safety, quality, and production, and really try to get them to buy into, our core values here at TA Loving that's allowed us to be successful for the first 100 years and should continue to be successful in the next 100 years.
Safety, quality, production, we've heard those words repeatedly. So it is clear that we have a strong message and a strong commitment to those three areas.
Absolutely.
How about you, Clay?
I think I like to stress the teamwork part of this. And even before it became our hallmark for our group in civil infrastructure, I stressed that with the engineers and the owners of the projects that I worked on, that going into it from the day one at the pre-construction meeting, being a team, we were going to achieve so much more together than we were with the usual contractor and engineer owner relationship that you hear horror stories about. I wanted to form a partnership from the start that we wanted to be proud of and build on that. And the guys that work for me and the teams that we build, we emphasize that from the ground up, from the superintendent and the foreman and the workers in the field, understanding that when the owner or the engineer is standing there watching them, he's not an inspector so much as he is a partner in it, and if he has a better idea or you have a question, that we're there as a team to work together to achieve a common goal. We all want to be proud of the project in the end, and I think it's worked to our benefit and to the owners' benefits in the projects we've worked on.
Mm-hmm. Teamwork, looking for the win-win. How can we all benefit from this is so important. You just touched a little bit on the culture of the civil infrastructure business unit. Can you explore that a little bit further and tell us what's unique about civil infrastructure?
In the civil infrastructure business group, we have multiple skills, and several crews are adept at concrete construction, for instance, where their formwork and their placement and finishing of concrete is needed on separate jobs, and they may be plucked from one job site and moved to another one for a half a day's time to pour a concrete slab for a generator or a foundation. And other crews might have better skills in installing equipment or the intricacies of small diameter, high pressure piping that go along with a control panel or a seal water panel that feed the giant 700 horsepower pumps that we install. Very precision work, that you can't mess it up. You don't have the spare materials that if you miscut a small piece of piping, it'll be 6 or 8 weeks before you can get that same type of pipe, remade and reshipped to you. So it's intricate work. And we share those experiences and share those crews around. The general superintendent does an excellent job of feeding the crews to the sites that need them the most. And it's like a juggling game, riding a unicycle sometimes, but we have multiple skills that we share across the group.
Subject matter experts, which is kind of what you're talking about, is something we have not explored much in this podcast so far. So I love that you're bringing that forward and focusing on how this business unit is really committed to creating experts in areas who can go around and support the projects as needed instead of trying to have everybody become the expert in everything. So that's definitely unique. Justin, what would you add to this topic?
I'd say one of TA Loving's strongest aspects is the amount of experience that we have. We've got some extremely well tenured employees. And if I'm ever have a project where there's an issue with a question about how to put a piece of pipe in, we've got the conveyance group we can rely on. If we've got a heavy civil concrete issue or something, we've got Tony Robinson, who's very well versed in that. We've got Stephen Salter and the bridge group. That, you know, if we ever have any shoring design issues or anything, we can speak with them. Or, I mean, if I've got any admin questions, I mean, Clay's just a phone call away, and he's a great, reliable asset to really help close the circle on a lot of questions that we have often with these projects.
Engaging with resources, in this case, people outside of your immediate team, is not something that everybody's willing to do, right? Because sometimes we think if I have to go ask them, it looks like I don't know. So being willing to leverage the experience that other people within your business unit or in other business units have is definitely an advantage to providing the best quality solutions in the highest quality way.
I like to, think when we come up upon an opportunity or an issue that we need to resolve, I'm instantly looking around for who's done something like this before, who has experience with this situation or this engineer or this owner or these ground conditions. We often work in various parts of the eastern seaboard. Sometimes we're in rock, sometimes we're in running sand, sometimes we're in the brown or gray gumbo that you can sink up to your knee and pull your foot out and don't come out with a shoe or a boot. But we have experience in how to deal with those situations. Somebody has worked in this type of situation before in our group, as Justin said.
That's a strong leadership skill. So I'm curious, was that a natural skill for you, or did you learn that skill? And if you learned it, how did you move in that direction?
I think being an instructor in fighter aviation developed that skill initially.
Okay.
You knew who your best wingmen were and who your best tactics experts were. And so you're always resourcing to those experts. And, you have this card catalog file in your brain of who's the expert in that subject matter. And so I've built that type of rapport with the guys in our group. And if I don't know exactly who might be that resource, I'm the first one to say, let's make some phone calls. And 20 minutes spent, trying to find the best information to come up with a quick solution it beats 2 weeks of fixing something later if we went off in a direction that without a plan.
For sure. Rework is extremely stressful and costly. So talking more about that skill, do you find that skill hard to transfer to younger folks or folks newer to the industry?
I'd say you want them to be challenged to figure it out themselves, but there's a fine line where figuring out them for themselves, you need to push them to ask questions. And as you stated earlier, asking questions doesn't always come natural to some people. But at the end of the day, over the course of my career, I've learned some very valuable lessons about not asking questions.
Can you share some of those with us?
It's better to ask questions than it is to figure it out yourself sometimes. Because there is a lot of experience around here, and it's, as Ty said, you can learn some very valuable lessons if you spend enough money.
Yeah. I like that. You can learn some valuable lessons if you spend enough money. I've also been in that situation where you try to find this answer on your own and you've wasted hours of time that you could have been doing something else. And then you say something about it and someone's like, well, I've done that. Let me tell you what I've done. And then you're thinking, oh my gosh, what am I doing?
All I had to do is ask.
All I had to do was ask that one question to that one person. Why didn't I do that? And so that's maybe an easier lesson than some of the ones you're talking about that you won't tell us about,
Yeah.
but still
Save
a
those for a
painful
different day.
one.
Developing that in a young person, whether they're right out of high school or even out of college, uh, sometimes I see that they're reluctant to pick up the phone and make phone calls. They would rather rely on a text message or call and leave a voicemail rather than talk to somebody. And I don't know if it's an issue of, thinking that somebody is thinking that they don't know what they're doing, or that they're, inexperienced, that their inexperience would show. But I think that it's a valuable skill, and people that are experienced are more than willing to share their knowledge and their expertise.
Mm-hmm.
They're just waiting for somebody to ask the question.
For sure.
So
Absolutely. Well, we're talking about younger people, and we talked about the internship program. I'm going to ask both of you, because I know that you worked as an intern and you both have had the opportunity to mentor interns. What do you think is unique about our internship program?
I think people truly do want to come explore what TA11 has to offer them. There are a lot of people, go to the local universities and colleges, and they like living in Eastern North Carolina, and often TA11 will afford you that opportunity to not only live where you want to live, but also further your career growth path.
if I could sum it up in one word, I would think robust. When I mentioned that TA Loving, hires multiple interns each summer from local colleges and universities and even outside of the state, people are floored that I think last year had 63 interns for the summer. And, that just shows our commitment to developing young people, and only a portion of them may return for a second internship before maybe their senior year, or maybe don't return at all. But still, they're better for it, and we are better for their experience with us.
Yeah, absolutely. I look at it as three prongs. We're benefiting and developing the company, we're benefiting and developing individuals, and we're benefiting and developing the industry. Because most of these folks are going to go out and work in the industry, even if they don't work with us. And so we're going to take advantage of that and just make the industry stronger while we make ourselves stronger, and we make the individual stronger in the process.
I learned a lesson a long time ago, even before I was in construction, that you never learn something so well as until you have to instruct somebody else in that skill. And so supervising an intern or a young person will develop and hone your own skills in being able to explain it and describe it and coach somebody else into doing it.
Yeah.
You can look at that in a lot of ways in your life.
Absolutely. You want to become an expert in something, teach it to
Teach
someone
someone
else.
else. Absolutely.
So we've talked about the past. We've talked a little bit about the present. I want to switch our attention to the future. And I want to ask both of you, when you think about the next 100 years, what are you most excited about?
I'm excited about all these new future mega projects that you hear about, all the new technology that's coming out that's going to get implemented in construction nowadays. And, just helping the region that we live in really grow and keep up with modern societies.
I think you'll see the repetitive part of construction more adept to robotic or unmanned equipment. But I think that, as Ty would say, there will always be a position for somebody wanting to hold a shovel or push a broom or tie some rebar or place some concrete.
We say all the time, this is a people business.
It is.
And I think the more that we add tech in, we will still continue to be a people business.
Absolutely.
So we just talked about your interest and excitement about the coming years. Let's turn this a little more personal. Where do you see yourselves? Maybe not in the next 100 years, unless there are a lot of other technical advancements that we haven't talked about yet. But what's ahead for each of you?
I think in my case, I'm nearing retirement for the second time, and I look forward to that, spending more time with family and my grandkids. And I'm looking to possibly retire in the next 2 to 3 years and funny. My supervisor, our group president, keeps joking as he introduces me at conferences to others. He says, this is my senior project manager, Clay Wisnewski, and he's on the 8 to 10 year plan. And so, but really, I think it's probably within the next 2 to 3 years.
So you're saying you're going to win this battle, or
step back from full-time project management.
Okay.
I think the way our company works, I'll always have a place here if I desire to be here. And I enjoy the instructing role. I think there might be a way to step back and lighten up my workload, but still teaching the project management skills to the guys that are coming up behind us.
Yeah, you are extremely adept at getting to the detail of a task and being methodical about it, which is really helpful for new folks to understand the details of the complexities in order to get to the end result. And so having you continue to do that in some way, shape, or form would be helpful for TA Loving
That's
Company
what brings
overall.
me back now every day.
And how about you, Justin?
I've been here for 22 years now, and I plan to continue my career here until the 120th anniversary of TA Loving.
120th, so 20 more years. Woo, putting that goal out there. I like that.
Yeah, just see what the next 20 years hold for us.
I think, and differently from Clay, where Clay is really good at getting to the details and working people through the process, you're really good at the strategy and helping people understand kind of the bigger picture of what they're working on. So really having the two of you in your roles and allowing people to have the opportunity to work with both of you gives them a good comprehensive perspective on the business unit overall.
I think we work well together and balance each other's strengths.
Absolutely.
Well, Justin and Clay, I want to thank y'all for spending time with us today. It's been great, and just thank you for everything you do for the company. And it's really an exciting time in the company. So, again, thank you.
Glad to be here.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for joining us for our first century. As always, we'd love to hear from you. If you have questions, please email us at podcast@taloving.com. And if you'd like to keep on top of our coming episodes, please like and subscribe. We hope to see you in the next one.